The galactic empire was vast, stretching across hundreds of planets and countless star systems. Its reach was nearly unstoppable. They ruled with an iron fist, conquering any world that showed signs of resistance. To them, smaller planets were simply stepping stones, easy to control and easy to crush. But there was one planet that had caught their attention recently, a tiny speck in the far reaches of the galaxy, Earth. At first, Earth seemed like just another unimportant world. It was a small, isolated planet, home to a species that still relied on primitive technology compared to the vast machines of the Empire. The humans had only begun exploring their solar system, and their technology was not advanced enough to pose any serious threat. But there was something about Earth that puzzled the Empire's leaders. For months, the Empire had monitored Earth from afar, studying its signals and movements. What they found didn't make sense. Though the humans had not developed space travel at the same level as the Empire, they had made strange advances in other areas, especially in the fields of engineering and weapons technology. Earth had some kind of hidden potential that the Empire could not understand. The more the Empire watched, the more they felt they needed to take action. The highest-ranking commanders of the Galactic Empire gathered for a meeting to discuss the future of this strange planet. A large table sat at the center of a cold metal room, and around it stood several of the Empire's most powerful officials. Each of them was a member of the council that ruled the galaxy with ruthless efficiency. As they looked down at the star chart on the table, Earth was highlighted in red, a planet soon to be under their control. "Why waste time?" one of the commanders asked. "This planet is weak. It is ripe for conquest. We can take control before it becomes a problem." Another commander, more cautious, voiced his doubts. "We've underestimated small worlds before. There's something about Earth that doesn't add up. The humans are primitive, yes, but their weapons are not as weak as we thought. They've developed a defense system that seems beyond their means. We should consider taking a more careful approach." A third commander, more aggressive than the others, slammed his fist on the table. "Careful? They don't have the strength to stop us. We've conquered empires far greater than this one. Let's crush them now, while we still can." After a brief silence, the lead commander spoke. He was older than the rest, and his voice carried the weight of authority. "I think we should test them first. Let's send a fleet to make contact, and if they resist, we will destroy them. But we must make sure they know who they're dealing with. We do not want to waste time on a long war." With that decision made, the Empire began preparing for the mission. A fleet of warships, bristling with weaponry and advanced technology, was assembled. The commanders believed the mission would be quick, easy, and without challenge. The human species, they thought, would fall in line with ease. But Earth was ready. Humanity had always been underestimated. For years, they had been quietly preparing, building their own weapons, and studying the stars. Earth's leaders had long known that one day they might face an enemy far more powerful than they could imagine. They didn't know when it would come, but they were determined to be ready when it did. As the days passed, the fleet made its way toward Earth's solar system. But the humans weren't idle. A warning went out to the entire galaxy. "We warned you to stay away." At first, the Galactic Empire laughed off the message. It was sent from Earth's military command, transmitted across a secure channel to the Empire's fleet. The message was simple, direct, and calm. It warned the Empire not to attack. It was not a threat, but a plea. A warning that no one in the Empire took seriously. The commanders of the fleet scoffed at the message, laughing amongst themselves. "How ridiculous," one said. "These humans are no threat to us. They don't even know how to fight a war." But despite their laughter, something didn't sit right with them. Why would the humans send such a message? Were they trying to bluff their way out of a fight? Or did they know something the Empire didn't? The fleet pressed on, ignoring the warning. But as Earth came closer into view, the Empire was soon to learn just how wrong they were. The Galactic Empire's fleet continued its journey toward Earth, oblivious to the growing storm that awaited them. The vast armada, led by sleek warships, glided through space, cutting a path toward the small, unremarkable blue planet. As the fleet drew closer, the Empire's commanders remained confident. In their minds, Earth was just another world waiting to be claimed. To them, it was no different than countless other planets they had conquered. Their fleet was far too powerful for a small, primitive race to stand against. "We'll crush them quickly," one of the fleet's commanders, Admiral Zoreth, said with a smug grin. "A few warning shots will send them running. They'll be begging for mercy before we even land." The other commanders laughed in agreement. "Yes, we fought much larger empires. These humans won't even know what hit them," said General Vark, one of the most respected military leaders in the Empire. However, the laughter had an edge of unease. There was something unsettling about the humans. Their defense systems were unlike anything the Empire had ever encountered. They didn't know how the humans had developed such advanced technology, but they were certain that a few well-placed strikes would bring them to their knees. Even so, a small part of them felt a growing sense of doubt that they couldn't shake. While the Empire laughed off the warning message, humanity was preparing in ways they could never have imagined. Earth's leaders had known that the day of reckoning would come, and they had spent years laying the groundwork for this moment. No one on Earth had expected the Empire to simply ignore their warning, but they had also planned for the possibility that the Empire would underestimate them. On Earth, at military headquarters, President Elena Cruz sat in a dimly lit room, surrounded by advisors and officers. Her face was stern, but there was a glint of determination in her eyes. "They don't believe us," she said, her voice calm but firm. "They think we're just a weak, primitive species that has no chance of fighting back. But they couldn't be more wrong." One of her top generals, General Marcus Lee, nodded in agreement. "We've been preparing for this moment for decades. Our technology, our defense systems, everything we've built. This will show them what humanity is capable of." The warning message had already been sent. It had been brief and to the point. "We warned you to stay away." It was not a threat, but a statement of fact. Humanity had been watching the Empire for years, studying their movements, their ships, their strategies. And now, the Empire's arrogance was about to be their undoing. The message was broadcasted across the galaxy, intended to be received by anyone in the Empire's reach. Some of the galaxy's other civilizations, who had suffered under the Empire's rule, listened to the message and felt a spark of hope. If humanity could stand against the Empire, then perhaps they could finally have a chance at freedom. Word spread quickly, and the message was shared across multiple planets, carried by those who longed for a change. Back in the Empire's fleet, the commanders had yet to realize the consequences of their actions. They were approaching Earth, and their confidence only grew as they neared the planet's orbit. Admiral Zoreth gave the order to fire a few warning shots. The idea was simple: show Earth the power of the Empire, make them submit before any real battle could even begin. But as the first shots rang out, they found themselves facing an unexpected surprise. The humans were not cowering in fear. They weren't running away. Instead, they fought back with a precision and strength that the Empire hadn't anticipated. In an instant, Earth's defense systems activated. Massive energy shields appeared around the planet, blocking the Empire's blasts with ease. The warships that the Empire had sent were suddenly caught in a web of energy beams, each one more advanced than anything they had seen before. The Empire's ships, designed for overwhelming power, were now helpless against the humans' well-coordinated defenses. Admiral Zoreth's face turned pale. "What is this?" he shouted, staring at the screens that showed Earth's response. "We didn't expect this. Their shields are beyond anything we've encountered." General Vark growled in frustration. "They're using weapons that should be impossible. This cannot be happening." The Empire's fleet was stunned into silence. They had thought the humans would collapse under the slightest pressure. Instead, they had unleashed a force the Empire could not comprehend. Earth's weapons were unlike anything the Empire had ever faced. Too advanced, too powerful. Back on Earth, President Cruz watched the live feed of the battle, her face a mixture of resolve and relief. She had known they could do it. "This is just the beginning," she said quietly, turning to her advisors. "We've prepared for this moment for so long. Now the galaxy will see who we are." The message that Earth had sent wasn't just a warning. It was a declaration that humanity would not go down without a fight, and that no matter how small they seemed in the eyes of the galaxy, they were ready to stand up to any force that threatened them. The Empire had been warned, but now they would learn the true strength of humanity. The galaxy's laughter had stopped. The Empire's confidence was shaken, and Earth's true power was only beginning to unfold. The battle between the Galactic Empire and Earth had begun, but it was not at all what the Empire had expected. The first wave of attacks, meant to intimidate, had been met with a surprising defense. Earth's energy shields had held firm, and the Empire's ships were now facing an unexpected resistance. The Empire's commanders scrambled to adjust their strategies, but the humans were proving to be far more resilient than they had ever imagined. Admiral Zoreth stood at the front of the command room, staring at the displays in disbelief. "How is this possible?" he muttered to himself. "Their shields are holding up against our best weapons. These humans shouldn't have this kind of technology." His second-in-command, Captain Alera, stood beside him, her hands hovering over the controls. "We underestimated them, sir. Their defense systems are not just advanced. They're advanced in ways we've never seen before. It's like they've anticipated every move we've made." Admiral Zoreth clenched his fists, frustration building. This was supposed to be easy. We were supposed to crush them with a single strike. Now, they're turning the tables on us. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the human forces were working together in a way the Empire had never witnessed. The world's leaders, scientists, and military experts had been preparing for this day for years. They had known that if the Empire ever made its move, Earth would need to be ready, not just to defend, but to strike back. General Marcus Lee, Earth's top military strategist, stood at a command center, observing the unfolding battle. His eyes were focused, but there was a glimmer of pride in them. "We've got them on the ropes," he said to his team. "Our defenses are holding, but now it's time to take the fight to them." "Do you think they'll back off?" one of the officers asked, still watching the action on the screen. Lee shook his head. "No, the Empire is relentless. They'll just keep throwing more force at us. But we've got something they don't: unity, determination, and a willingness to do whatever it takes to protect our world. We're not backing down." The humans had come a long way in a short time. Earth's cities had been transformed into fortresses, with advanced technology integrated into every building. Across the globe, humanity had built ships capable of holding their own against the Empire's fleets, and they were not just relying on their shields. Earth's offensive weapons, previously thought to be primitive, had been improved, redesigned, and reprogrammed to strike with deadly precision. As the Empire's fleet continued to fire, Earth's counterattacks began to take their toll. A small, agile fleet of human warships launched a surprise attack from behind the Empire's formation, sending waves of missiles and energy blasts that hit their targets with unerring accuracy. One by one, the Empire's ships began to falter. They couldn't escape the barrage. On board the flagship of the Empire, Admiral Zoreth was growing desperate. "Increase firepower. Send reinforcements to the front lines," he barked. But it was too late. The Empire had underestimated the humans, and now the tide of battle was shifting. Earth's warships were fast, flexible, and packed with weapons that had been designed to exploit the Empire's weaknesses. The Empire's massive warships were too slow to evade the human missiles, and they couldn't defend themselves against the sheer number of attacks. Back on Earth, President Elena Cruz stood before a group of advisors and military leaders, watching the battle unfold. She had prepared for this moment her entire life. This wasn't just a fight for Earth, it was a fight for humanity's place in the galaxy. She knew that if they lost here, Their world would fall to the Empire, and all the progress they had made would be destroyed. "This is our chance," she said, her voice filled with quiet determination. "We've shown them we're not afraid, but we need to keep pushing. We need to send a message." The advisors nodded in agreement. "We've broken their front line," one of them said. "They're retreating, but they'll regroup. We can't afford to let them recover." "We won't," President Kruz replied. "Send the second wave of ships. It's time to end this." The second wave of human warships launched into space, more powerful than the first. These ships had been specially designed for a full-scale assault. With a combination of devastating energy weapons, advanced targeting systems, and unmatched maneuverability, they cut through the Empire's defenses like a hot knife through butter. The Empire was caught completely off guard. Their flagship, the largest and most powerful ship in the fleet, was struck by a barrage of energy blasts from multiple directions. The ship's shields flickered and cracked under the pressure. Inside, the Empire's commanders were in chaos, trying to maintain control as their once invincible fleet was crumbling before them. Admiral Zoreth gripped the armrests of his command chair as the flagship rocked from another blast. "This isn't happening," he muttered, staring in disbelief at the screens. "We were supposed to win. We were supposed to crush them." But Earth's forces didn't stop. They pressed forward, determined to show the Empire that the galaxy had misjudged them. Humanity was not a weak, defenseless species. They were survivors, and they were ready to fight for their world, their freedom, and their future. As the Empire's fleet slowly retreated, the humans stood victorious. They had not only defended their home, they had struck back, showing the galaxy that they would never bow to an empire, no matter how powerful it claimed to be. The battle in space had been hard-fought, but the tide had clearly shifted. Earth's forces had struck back with a power and precision that stunned the galactic empire. For the first time in its long history, the empire was retreating, not from a superior enemy, but from an underestimated one. The humans were not the weak, helpless species the empire had expected. They had proven that in the most unexpected way. Admiral Zoreth stood in the command center of his flagship, watching as the empire's fleet slowly withdrew. The once proud fleet was now in disarray. The ships, which had been built for dominance, were retreating like frightened animals, their shields damaged, their weapons malfunctioning. It was a sight Zoreth never imagined he would see. "Order the fleet to regroup," he barked to his officers, though his voice lacked the authority it once had. "We need to reassess. Prepare for a counterattack." But the officers around him exchanged uncertain glances. The Empire's confidence had been shattered, and no amount of regrouping seemed to change the fact that Earth's defense systems were far more advanced than they had anticipated. And then there was the humans' resolve. They had fought back with a passion that even the most seasoned warriors of the Empire could not have predicted. As the fleet retreated, Zoreth's mind raced. He had thought this would be an easy conquest. The Empire had crushed civilizations far more powerful than Earth, but the humans were different. They had fought with a unity and determination that no enemy had ever shown before. He had underestimated them, and now he had to face the consequences. Meanwhile, back on Earth, President Alina Kruz stood before a holographic display of the retreating Empire fleet. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with determination. She had watched as humanity's military forces had held their ground against the Empire, proving to the galaxy that Earth would not be intimidated. It was a victory, but one that came with a heavy price. Earth's defenses had held, but many ships had been damaged, and there were still threats to face. "We've pushed them back," President Kruz said, her voice steady. "But we cannot afford to stop here. They will regroup, and we must be ready for the next phase. We cannot let them think they can come back and try again." General Marcus Lee, standing at her side, nodded. "We've gained valuable intelligence from this battle. Their tactics, their weaknesses. The Empire is not invincible, and now we know that for sure. We will prepare for whatever they throw at us next." The president's expression hardened. We must send a message. The Empire needs to understand that Earth will not be a planet they can conquer. We need to show the galaxy that humanity is not just a small, insignificant world. We are a force to be reckoned with. Back in space, the Empire's fleet continued its retreat, and as it retreated further into the dark expanse of the galaxy, it became clear that the retreat was not just a tactical move. It was a sign of desperation. The commanders of the fleet could feel the change in the air. They were no longer facing a weak, unsuspecting world. They were facing a determined adversary that had caught them off guard. Inside the flagship, Zoreth paced back and forth, unable to calm his nerves. "This is a disaster," he muttered. "How did we let this happen? We should have crushed them in a single strike." Captain Alera, her face drawn with frustration, replied, "They've somehow developed technology far beyond our expectations, and their military coordination is unlike anything we've seen before. The humans, they were ready for us. They didn't just defend themselves, they fought back." Zoreth stopped pacing and turned to face her. "Then what do we do now? If we return to the Empire without conquering Earth, we'll be laughed out of the galaxy. This failure will cost us everything." Alera hesitated for a moment before answering. "We have to reevaluate our tactics. We'll need reinforcements, and we'll need to find a way to neutralize their defenses. But first, we need to regroup, gather our strength, and come up with a plan. We cannot let this setback break us." Zoreth took a deep breath and nodded. "Fine. But make no mistake, if we don't succeed this time, the Empire will lose its grip on this sector, and I'll make sure every one of us pays for this failure." Back on Earth, President Cruz addressed the world, her message broadcasted to every corner of the planet. "Today, humanity has proven that we will not be intimidated. We have shown the galaxy that Earth is not a weak, defenseless world. We are strong, and we are united. This is just the beginning of our fight for survival." The people of Earth watched with a sense of pride and relief. The battle was far from over, but they had taken the first step in ensuring that their world would remain free. The Empire had been warned, and while the future was uncertain, one thing was clear: humanity had earned its place in the galaxy. In the distant reaches of space, the Empire's retreating fleet set a new course. The war was far from over, and the Empire would not give up easily. But for the first time in centuries, they would face an opponent that would not bow down. The humans had proven their strength, and that, above all, would haunt the Galactic Empire as they regrouped for the next phase of their campaign. Despite the stunning defeat they had suffered, the Galactic Empire was not a force to be dismissed so easily. Their retreat had been a tactical move, designed to buy time, regroup, and rethink their strategy. The humans had shown themselves to be more than capable of defending their world, but the Empire was vast, and its resources were nearly limitless. It wasn't going to give up on Earth without a fight. Back aboard the flagship, Admiral Zoreth was determined to regain the upper hand. His officers had already begun making plans for a second, more powerful assault. Earth's defenses had held up, but he was confident that with the right reinforcements, the Empire could break through. "We cannot afford another setback," Zoreth told his crew, his voice firm. "This time, we strike with everything we have. No more underestimating them. We will destroy their defenses and claim Earth once and for all." His officers nodded, knowing that this was the last chance for the Empire to make its mark on the galaxy. They had already lost too much face, and the higher-ups in the Empire were not pleased with their failure. The pressure to succeed was immense. Meanwhile, on Earth, the people were still processing the victory. They had won the first battle, but everyone knew it was far from over. The Empire would return, and when it did, the stakes would be even higher. President Elena Cruz had gathered the leaders of Earth's various factions to discuss their next steps. "We cannot rest on our laurels," she said, her voice filled with resolve. "We've proven we can defend our planet, but the Empire will not let this go. They'll come back stronger, and we must be ready." General Marcus Lee nodded in agreement. We've learned a lot from the first battle. We know their tactics, their weaknesses. We also know that they have a vast fleet, but their ships are vulnerable in certain ways. If we can exploit those weaknesses, we might stand a chance. We need more than just defense, President Cruz said. We need to strike back. If we just wait for them to come to us again, we're giving them the advantage. We need to take the fight to them. Earth's scientists had been working tirelessly since the battle, analyzing the technology the Empire had used and looking for ways to improve their own weapons. The human ships had held up surprisingly well against the Empire's fleet, but Earth's technology was still far behind in certain areas. However, they had something the Empire did not: ingenuity and the will to adapt. The human military engineers had begun reworking their ships, adding more advanced shields, weapons systems, and countermeasures. They knew they couldn't match the Empire's sheer firepower, but they could use strategy and resourcefulness to their advantage. "We need to hit them hard and fast," General Lee said. "We don't have the numbers they do, but we can make up for it with speed and precision. Let's make sure the next time they come, they'll wish they never did." The plan was set. Earth's forces would strike at the Empire's fleet as it regrouped, taking out key ships and destabilizing the Empire's ability to organize a full-scale assault. It wasn't going to be easy, but it was their best chance. Back in space, the Empire's massive warships were preparing for the next phase of the invasion. Zorath stood on the bridge, watching as his fleet moved into position. "This is it," he muttered to himself. "This time, Earth will fall." The Empire's fleet had undergone a series of upgrades, increasing their offensive capabilities. New, more powerful weapons had been installed, and additional ships had joined the ranks. The Empire was ready for the second phase of their invasion, and they believed it would be a swift victory. But as the Empire's ships approached Earth's outer defenses, they received an unexpected surprise. Earth's forces, which had previously been scattered and defensive, had now formed a united front. Human ships, faster and more agile, darted around the Empire's larger, slower vessels. Their attacks were coordinated, each ship working in perfect harmony with the others. "We've got them in our sights," General Lee said over the comms. "Launch the first wave." In an instant, Earth's first strike began. Ships flew at high speed toward the Empire's rear, launching precision-guided missiles and energy blasts that hit the Empire's weaker points. The Empire had expected Earth's ships to be slow and ineffective, but they were wrong. The humans were using their agility and speed to outmaneuver their enemies. Admiral Zorath's flagship rocked as Earth's missiles hit their mark. The shields flickered and crackled under the pressure. "Return fire," Zorath ordered, his voice filled with anger and disbelief. They shouldn't be able to do this. But the humans didn't stop. They launched wave after wave of attacks, making it impossible for the Empire to regroup. Ships that had been reinforced for battle began to break apart under the force of the human strikes, and as the Empire's fleet began to falter, a sense of unease spread through Zorath's command. He had prepared for a second strike, but he hadn't expected Earth's forces to be this organized, this effective. "What is happening?" Zorath demanded. "They should be retreating. This shouldn't be possible." The truth was undeniable now. Earth was not the weakling planet the Empire had thought. It was a force of its own, capable of striking back when pushed too far. The war had only just begun, but the outcome was becoming clear. Earth would not be defeated easily. Back on Earth, President Cruz watched the battle unfold. "We've taken the first step," she said, a calm resolve in her voice. "But the fight is far from over. We'll keep pushing until we make the Empire understand that Earth is not a planet they can conquer." Humanity had shown the galaxy its strength. Now the question was whether the Empire would acknowledge it, or whether they would push Earth to the breaking point. Only time would tell. The war between the Galactic Empire and Earth had entered its most dangerous phase. After the initial surprise of Earth's resistance, the Empire had learned from its mistakes. They were no longer underestimating humanity. Instead, they were now adapting to their tactics, determined to crush this small but stubborn planet. However, Earth's forces were not backing down. In fact, they were becoming more united, stronger, and smarter with each battle. Back on Earth, President Alina Cruz stood in the command center, watching the live feeds of the ongoing battle. The holographic map showed the positions of Earth's fleet, along with the massive warships of the Empire advancing toward Earth's atmosphere. The situation was critical, but President Cruz wasn't afraid. She had witnessed firsthand the bravery of her people, and she knew they had the strength to continue this fight. "We need to stay focused," President Cruz said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "We've already proven they can be defeated. Now we push them back, one ship at a time." General Marcus Lee, standing beside her, nodded. He knew the Empire would come with more force, but Earth had something the Empire did not: determination. They had faced down an unstoppable force and lived to tell the tale. Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a symbol of resistance. "We've developed a new weapon," General Lee said. "It's still experimental, but it might give us the edge we need. It's a disruptor field that can temporarily disable their shields. If we can get close enough to their flagships, we might be able to take them down." President Cruz looked at him, considering the risk. "Is it ready for deployment?" "We've tested it in smaller skirmishes, and it works," General Lee replied. "But getting it close enough to the larger ships will be the challenge. We'll need a distraction." President Cruz smiled. "I think we have the perfect team for the job." Meanwhile, Admiral Zoreth of the Empire was facing his own set of challenges. The Empire's reinforcements had arrived, and their ships were stronger than ever. But despite their numbers, they still hadn't managed to break Earth's defenses. Every time they made a move, the humans seemed to be one step ahead. "This cannot continue," Zoreth muttered to himself as he watched the human ships darting in and out of his fleet's range. "Their ships are faster, more agile. Our heavy artillery is useless if we can't hit them." His officers were growing more anxious. They had already lost several large ships, and their fleet was beginning to show signs of strain. They had underestimated the humans, and now they were paying the price. "Admiral, we've received word from command," one of the officers said nervously. "They want us to make a final push. We are to break through Earth's defenses, no matter the cost." Zoreth turned to his officer, his eyes narrowing. "Tell them we are already doing everything we can. If Earth's resistance continues at this rate, we will need reinforcements of our own." It was clear to him that Earth was not the easy target they had believed it to be. Humanity was learning fast, and each battle brought new surprises. But the Empire was still the largest, most powerful force in the galaxy. It was only a matter of time before they overwhelmed Earth, wasn't it? Back on Earth, the humans had a plan. The human fleet, now enhanced with new technologies and strategies, prepared for the next wave of battle. Earth's scientists had worked around the clock to refine their disruptor field technology, and now it was ready for deployment. The next move would be critical. The command center buzzed with activity as the final preparations were made. A team of elite pilots had been selected to infiltrate the Empire's flagship. Their mission was to get close enough to disable its shields using the disruptor technology. Captain Sofia Ramirez, a veteran pilot with a reputation for being fearless, stood at the front of the room. She had led many missions before, but this one felt different. The stakes were higher than ever. "We've got one shot at this," she said to her team. "We need to get in, drop the disruptor, and get out before the Empire realizes what's happening. If we fail, the entire fleet could be lost." Her team of pilots nodded, their faces determined. They were ready. They had trained for this moment, and they would not let Earth down. As the ships launched into space, the tension was palpable. The Empire's flagship loomed ahead, its massive form a symbol of their dominance. But Captain Ramirez knew that their speed and agility would give them the advantage. If they could get close enough, the disruptor would work. The human fleet moved into position, drawing the Empire's attention. The Empire's warships opened fire, but the human ship swiftly dodged, weaving through the chaos. Captain Ramirez's team was in the thick of it, weaving between enemy ships as they made their way toward the flagship. "We're almost there," Ramirez said into her comms, her voice steady despite the danger. "Just a little farther." But the Empire was not going to let them reach their target without a fight. Suddenly, a barrage of fire lit up the space around them. A missile shot past Captain Ramirez's ship, narrowly missing. The team was under heavy fire, but they pressed on, determined to finish the mission. "We've got to keep moving," Ramirez urged. "The disruptor can't be deployed if we don't get close enough." With a final burst of speed, the team reached the flagship. Ramirez's ship dove under the massive hull, narrowly avoiding another blast. Her team followed, staying close to her as they moved into position. "Ready to deploy the disruptor," Ramirez said. She aimed her ship at the weak point on the Empire's flagship and released the disruptor. The field expanded, flooding the area with energy. The flagship's shields flickered and went down, leaving the ship vulnerable. The Empire had been caught off guard. "Disruptor deployed," Ramirez said, breathing a sigh of relief. "Now let's get out of here." But before they could escape, the Empire retaliated with everything they had. It was clear the battle was far from over. But for the first time, Earth had struck a decisive blow. Back on Earth, the command center erupted in cheers as they watched the flagship's shields falter. Humanity had done it. The tide was turning, but the war was far from over. The battle for Earth had reached its climax. The Empire, once so confident in their power, was now beginning to question their assumptions. Despite their overwhelming numbers, the humans had proven resilient, and with each passing day, Earth's defense forces grew stronger. The tide had truly turned, and the Empire had no idea how to respond. Inside Earth's command center, President Elena Cruz stood at the heart of the operations. The screens before her showed the Empire's flagship, its once impenetrable shields now flickering as Earth's forces launched a final devastating assault. She could feel the weight of history pressing down on her, but there was no time for hesitation. This was the moment they had all worked for, the moment to win or lose it all. "We've got them on the ropes," General Marcus Lee said, standing beside her. His eyes were fixed on the screen, watching as Earth's ships closed in on the weakened flagship. "This is it. If we can take down their command ship, the rest of their fleet will fall apart." President Cruz nodded, her fingers gripping the edge of the table. "We've come too far to back down now. Let's finish this." In space, Captain Sofia Ramirez and her team were in position, preparing to launch the final strike against the Empire's flagship. The disruptor field they had deployed earlier had bought them the precious seconds needed to get into position. But this was no easy task. The Empire's remaining warships were circling the flagship, forming a deadly shield to protect their command ship. "This is it, team," Ramirez said, her voice calm despite the intensity of the battle. "We have one shot to bring down the flagship. We hit them hard. Then we get out." The elite pilots moved into formation, their ships darting through the battlefield with precision. The Empire's warships opened fire, but the humans were faster, more agile. Ramirez's team cut through the enemy lines, staying focused on their target. "Almost there," Ramirez said, watching the massive flagship grow closer. The battle around them was fierce, but nothing mattered more than this moment. If they succeeded, they would deal a crushing blow to the Empire. Suddenly, the flagship's massive guns fired, and an explosion rocked the space around them. Ramirez's ship shook violently, but she held steady, maneuvering her ship past the Empire's fire. "We're too close to turn back now," Ramirez said. "Target the engines, and make sure we don't miss." Her team fired everything they had, sending missiles and energy blasts toward the flagship's weak points. The Empire's defenses were failing, and the human attacks were finding their mark. The flagship's engines sputtered, sparks flying from the damaged hull. "We've got them," Ramirez shouted. "The engines are down. The flagship's dead in space." Back on Earth, the command center erupted in cheers as the flagship systems began to shut down. The Empire's fleet was no longer coordinated, and their remaining ships began to retreat, trying to salvage what they could. But it was too late. The humans had already dealt a blow they could not recover from. In space, the final moments of the battle played out in slow motion. Earth's fleet moved in, finishing off the last of the Empire's warships, while the remaining enemy forces flooded into the depths of space. The humans had done the impossible. They had defeated the Empire's greatest fleet. As the last enemy ships disappeared into the void, the silence was deafening. The war was over. Earth had won. Back on Earth, President Kruz stood tall as the cheers in the command center grew louder. The victory was theirs, and humanity had proven to the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. "This is only the beginning," President Kruz said, her voice carrying the weight of the moment. "We've sent a message to the entire galaxy. Humanity is not a force to be trifled with." General Lee stepped forward, offering a firm handshake. "The Empire will think twice before they ever try to invade Earth again." But despite the victory, there was still work to be done. The galaxy had witnessed Earth's rise, but the consequences of the war would echo for years to come. The humans had fought bravely, but now they would need to rebuild, repair their alliances, and prepare for whatever came next. As the dust settled and Earth's victory was secured, President Kruz looked up at the stars. The journey had been long and hard, but humanity had endured. They had stood their ground against the might of an empire, and now, for the first time, they stood as equals in the galaxy. The message was clear. Earth would not kneel. Earth would never be a victim again. And the galaxy would have to reckon with the strength, the ingenuity, and the spirit of humanity. "Let's make sure we're ready for the future," President Kruz said. "The galaxy won't forget what we've done here, and neither will we." As she turned to face the future, Earth's people knew that this victory was just the beginning of something much bigger. The universe was vast, and humanity had earned its place among the stars. And for the first time in history, the galaxy would see Earth not as a target, but as a force to be reckoned with. The war was over, the Empire had been defeated, and Earth was free.